Hey, everybody, and welcome to Boss Talks. We have a great episode for you today. Erin Mahone, she is with what used to be known as Campus Life and Style, or CLS, and they're now going by CLS Living. And I've actually had the great opportunity to talk to somebody else from the company. They're no longer there, but Teddy, he was somebody that was a great guest, I think 2 years ago. So I'm familiar with the company. They're in student housing and they're doing some great things in the industry, especially student housing. And we're going to get into all things that they're doing and the passions of Erin, and what uh, the new role that she took on is all about. So she's the senior VP of innovation and implementation. So it's going to be a very good conversation around all things technology and making it a better place to live, hospitable. Hospitality is a huge thing for their company. And I think they do it really well and making it more of an experience of living there than just, I live in an apartment or student housing. So they definitely own that space and do their best to make it a great place to live. But before we get to Erin, I'm your host, Evan Happel. I'm with Community Boss, and we have a great solution for you when it comes to technology. If you have any issues with parking or amenity management, or even need a good map to kind of showcase what's going on in your community and the amenities you have, we have some great solutions for you. So if you need to make some revenue and even integrate with some other tech like Flock and things like that, we can do it. So let me know if you have any questions and we'll get right to it. But today it's about Erin, so let's go. All right. Thanks for being here, Erin.
Thanks for having me, Evan. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you just recently got into this role. And was this an existing role or is this a created role?
This is definitely a created role. It speaks to the sign of the times. You can't really run a modern company without having somebody who's on the lookout for what's next innovation wise. And so somebody who can also be able to implement it when we do identify those solutions. So I was previously the vice president of training and hospitality at Campus Life and Style. And now, as you mentioned in the intro, we are CLS Living. And I have taken on this new role of innovation and implementation. Really, really excited to get some things going here at CLS.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you noticed, but in the upper corner, you can hit comments and you'll see those that jump on and join us. You'll see their comments. So click on that because we already have the great Steve Wunsch present and accounted for and
I
cheering
love
you on.
Steve. Hello, Steve. Thanks for always supporting. Love it.
Yep, yep. So, well, again, thank you for being here. And I think it's awesome that you guys are paying attention to changing of environment and the need for a greater attention to figuring out the tech and stuff. Because let's be honest, in real estate, this always falls on the marketing department. It's like, okay, we need more tech. Let's just make the marketing people go figure it out.
But I mean, to your point, I mean, there is a lot of tech coming to marketing, the marketing
Yeah,
direction. But believe it or not, I think I've been busiest on the maintenance side so far in my
yeah,
short month in this role. Yeah, we have been, really testing out some awesome solutions on the maintenance side, from inspections to really, end to end work order management. There's a lot out there, and so our angle is to always pilot before we go full steam ahead. And so we're
yeah,
piloting at least three different companies as we speak, because when it comes to maintenance, that's your resident retention right there. And so we're
yep,
focusing on that because there's a lot coming our way. But secondarily comes marketing solutions, because between Google itself changing the way that you show up on their
uh-huh.
front page, to making sure that you have artificial intelligence that can answer around the clock questions. It is always something new. So I've really been having a good time so far. But I mean, life comes at you fast in the world of technology.
Oh gosh, it's ever changing. You can't just be like, okay, we got a new solution. It's over. Nope. It might be good for a year, hopefully.
Exactly. Yeah, and I was just speaking on a panel at Interface with a gentleman by the name of Keith Ross, and he introduced me to the idea of in artificial intelligence. I think he called it Moore's law, but it's on the idea that things are exponentially coming at us fast. And so, if we thought in the past 3 years, if we're measuring ourselves off of that, nope, we got 1.5 years to what 3 years used to be, and then it cuts in half after that, and it cuts in half after that. So, I mean, he believes that in the next 3 months, he made a statement, something to the effect of you have businesses who believe in AI, and you have businesses that don't exist. And he's probably gonna be right in the next year for sure.
Yeah, no, you're right. Even with the way we do search engines and how Google processes, the experience is quickly shifting. I learned last week to it's going to be more of a chat GPT experience, like moving forward.
Yes, that it is. But also, apparently, I'm not the expert in this realm. I'm learning so fast because it's changing so fast. I mean, a year ago, SEO, search engine optimization, the more times you had the word apartments on your website, the higher up you're going to appear. Now it's all about how often your Google My Business page is refreshed and how people are interacting with your reviews. And there's so much more to the algorithm on how you show up on the first page that the layperson doesn't understand. And so it kind of yields itself for us to require prop tech, especially in those realms, because we're apartment experts, not Google experts. And so
Right.
good for those Google experts that have monetized it early on because we need them.
Yeah. And to your point of you won't exist, I in hearing that and like the little I've messed with like Chat GPT, if you aren't the business that shows up in that prompt, you don't exist.
You don't exist. That's
Which
exactly
is crazy.
it's true. It's true. It is absolutely true. So we are investing actively in staying above, keeping up on the cutting edge, and not just staying right there status quo. Our whole goal is to innovate. It's right there in my title, and to be the leaders. And so as such, we're building a lot of in-house solutions ourselves as well when it comes to technology. AWS, everybody's probably heard of Amazon Web Services. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, it's just this great landscape of opportunity where if you have the right tools and people who speak that language, you can do it yourself. But
Yeah.
it is the idea of we run apartments, not technology folks. And so, where's the balance? Where's the fine line of where you outsource versus what you do yourself? And so, we're exploring that line as we speak.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, and it won't be boring. Uh,
Never a dull moment. I tell you
yeah,
that. Never a
yeah.
dull moment.
One, and hopefully other businesses or companies in the space will start like I think it's happening. They're realizing this everything's moving so quickly. They got to put somebody on it to stay up on everything because it's just constant.
It's true. And then you think, Evan, about we're talking all about technology, and a lot of my job having to do with technology. But when you also think about it, I mean, somebody's eye, I'm learning this as my hands are full and my cup runneth over. Somebody's eye also has to be on processes. How do we currently handle move outs? How do we currently handle move ins? And that speaks to standardization, which is another piece of something I'm really passionate about, because you can't really innovate, you can't really move your company to the next level of things until there's some level of standard or equal playing field. And so, we're starting right back at square one at CLS Living, because 10 years later, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary coming up here very soon. But 10 years later, we've got to reevaluate what our processes were 10 years ago are definitely not what our processes are today. And so I think some companies get in that rut of, it's there, it's you can find it on SharePoint, but we're really in the thick of things when it comes trying to make sure that it's a tool and a resource that people go to and utilize. And so not just redoing it, but making it digestible, putting it in technologically forward places. Like we're even looking at internal AI, our internal chat GPT, if you will, so somebody can just search what is our remediation policy, or what is our water intrusion policy, or how do we handle X, Y, and Z, and it just comes up just like a Gemini or a Siri or a chat GPT would. And so we're even innovating on the internal facing artificial intelligence, if you will, because we need answers just as quickly as our customers do.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I want to dive into all that a lot more here in a second. But before we do, there's a couple questions I just like to kick it off with and have some fun with before we get all serious.
Let's
So,
do it.
the first question is around the topic of parking. Our software, it's not the only thing we do, but it is a big part of what we do. And so I just like to understand from my guest perspective their take on parking or a story they have about it. Maybe they've got a weird experience they've had and most people do. Being a car's been towed or whatever, from your perspective.
Yeah, well, I live in the great state of Pennsylvania, where the show Parking Wars kind of originated. And so I get a kick on a constant basis out of people's parking stories, just kind of out there on the street, because it is a real deal. I mean, I look outside and there's boots and everything. I mean, there's street parking, it's the city, and so parking is a big deal. So I'm sure you all probably find success in more densely populated areas because parking is a premium. But no, my parking story, Evan, comes from my college days, to be honest with you, because I got the same old that everybody else has. Somebody was mad because their car got towed and they weren't parked in the right spot or didn't have a registered car. That's typical for our business. But just it hits home where, at big time universities, they obviously have learned to monetize parking a long, long time ago. But I went to a big, big university down in Georgia, go Bulldogs. When I was in school, I had a parking pass, and that cost probably, $500 a semester. It was big business, and it was to have the lot right outside of my dorm. And believe it or not, the fine print of that suggested that your parking pass is good Sunday through Friday, because if you know football, Saturdays are even bigger premium. So I'm just, going about my business. And I wake up to go get my car. It was actually not even, it was a home game. It was just way later that evening. And you can guess the rest. I walked out to not find my car. It was gone. And I had to call my mom and tell her that, yes, we paid $500 for a parking pass, but it happens not to be valid for Saturdays. So that just speaks to how, monetizing parking.
Priorities.
Yeah, priorities, exactly. But you'd be glad to know I didn't go party last night and drive it anywhere. So there you go, Mom.
Oh
But that
gosh.
was my personal story to parking when it hit home there, Evan.
Yeah. So where are you supposed to put your car on
The million
Saturday?
dollar question. You better find street parking before somebody else does, probably on Friday. It's they're hoping that you don't have an answer to that question, just like I did not. And it happened several more times because either A, I forgot, or B, I just couldn't find anywhere to park. So, it wasn't one and done. Did not learn my lesson.
Oh gosh. So was that on campus?
Yes, it was on campus, and I happened to live right by the stadium, so that was the first lot
Oh,
that they were patrolling, because it was. I mean, those were where the big money, patrons parked is in the lot where my dorm was. So
oh
I got
gosh.
I
That
got
sucks.
something to
That's
laugh about.
terrible. Yeah, yeah. It's a lot. You can laugh now. Yeah,
Exactly,
right,
exactly.
right. Oh
Yes.
goodness. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Next question I have is around music. So I like to ask my guest, what is a go-to song or songs that you listen to kind of get you amped up, motivated, whether it's for a speaking engagement, because I know you've done quite a bit of that, or just work in general.
So my walk-up song is really what you're asking me. My walk-up song,
Okay.
whether it's a speaking engagement where I'm going up to bat, on the ninth inning of my softball game that I play often, and it's "Happy" by Pharrell. Happy just
Okay.
gets me in the mood. It just reminds me that everything's not so serious, and we should be approaching life with a bit of brevity, with a bit of levity, and just remembering that it's all good. It's all good out
Yeah.
there. We can make any situation, better. And that's really what my passion is. We'll get into is hospitality and making people's experiences the best they can be. And so I got to be happy to deliver 5-star service myself. And so I try to stay that way.
Nice. Yeah, I like that song, and I've actually answered that song myself, and somebody else did. So that's already on the playlist.
Ah,
I'm bringing forth a playlist. So now you gotta what's number two maybe?
oh man. Okay. Well, Kendrick Lamar is big out there right now, and so my song of his that I'm loving right now is on my playlist is Luther. He did a
Okay.
spin of a Luther Vandross song. And so it's a vibe. It's a vibe. My son
All
loves
right.
it. He calls it by the Hook's name 555 is what they say. So that's his 3-year-old version of that song, but it is a vibe and it is my current number one go-to.
All right.
Yes.
Perfect. That song has not been said, but that means I think 3 Kendrick songs are now on the playlist.
He deserves. He deserves. Make sure there's some Beyonce on there, but I know that there are Beyonce fans
Oh,
out
we got Beyonce.
there.
Yep, that
All right,
was.
we're
I
good
think that
then.
was last week. Actually, it was
Yep,
added.
yep, good because she is the queen, so she deserves.
Yeah, I think it was. Is it Ya Ya Ya? Is that
I don't think that's the name of the song, but that's probably in the hook somewhere, but not on Cowboy Carter. That's not a name of the song, at least.
okay?
Testing my Beyonce knowledge. Look. Now I have to look. But anywho, we can move right along, Evan.
Yeah. All right. So, and then final question. Thanks for answering.
Mhm.
Is your caffeinated beverage of choice?
Oh,
What's
it
your
is
go-to?
ya. It is ya.
Okay. All right.
Correct. Yes. All right. My caffeinated beverage of choice. So I'm an energy drink girl, which people always say you don't need any more energy, Erin. You woke up like that, but I just need it. Okay, I just need it. I'm not a caffeine. I'm not a coffee girl. So energy drinks. And so Red Bull. I just tried this yesterday. Their summer flavor is white peach. It's in a pink
Oh,
can,
okay.
and so it is delightful. It is not too sweet and it hits just like it should. And so that got me through yesterday's day for sure. Red Bull
Nice.
Beach.
Yeah. I have to go with the flavored ones. I can't go straight Red Bull. The flavor for Red Bull just doesn't do it for me. But I can rock the white peach.
So that's funny that you say that because regular Red Bull reminds me of like alcoholic beverages. Just again,
Uh-huh.
college stories,
Yeah.
dropping Red Bull into other things, and so yeah, when I'm on regular Red Bull, it's a different kind of night.
Yeah. 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 That's a good way to put it.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
All right. Well, thanks for answering. Those are the questions, and now we can move into all things Aaron. And I, before we get into those other topics, I'd really like to kind of quickly go over your history in the industry, how you got here, and now are you a person that got in? Have you always, first of all, been in student housing, and was it that you straight in college started doing it?
It's exactly my story. I went to school for
All right.
broadcast news, which is why I enjoy the speaking circuit so much, but it's a way to tap into my roots, if you will. But yeah, right out of college, I said, Mom, I don't want to be a big girl yet. I mean, figure out, let me know a way where I can alleviate the bill paying of yours and still kind of have. I just wanted a gap year. I didn't even want a year, I wanted 6 months. And so she said, Erin, if I don't have to pay rent, then you do what you do. And I said, say less. And so my apartment had a big now hiring sign on the front of it. I was just graduated college. All my friends still were there. They were going to, get master's degrees and such, what I decided I was not doing. And so, yeah, right there, my college apartment that I was living in, I went and got a job there. Just so happened they were changing management like that week. And they were like, we need people because, with management changes, sometimes they stay with their old company. And so I fresh out of college was like, whatever that you need, my schedule's open. And so I was a leasing professional, part-time leasing professional. And then very soon after the management company did settle in and they were in a growth spurt. And so they were in a growth spurt. And so a couple months later, they were like, listen, we need a leasing manager. 6 months later, we need you to go to Durham, North Carolina to lease up a property that we just lost a master lease on. And I stayed at that firm for 10 years. And just through relationships, ironically, one of the owners of our current company at CLS Living used to hang his hat on third-party management back at my old firm. And so we just struck up a relationship. And so I love to say I've been in the business for 18 years, but I've worked for the same man for all 18. Two firms, kind of one person. Used to be a third-party relationship. Now he owns CLS Living. And so, what I've learned is this industry is small. And so in any, good life lessons in any world, in any industry is to not burn bridges, but especially in this business. And so one company pretty much held every single position there is, including corporate positions to regional leasing specialists and regional sales and training specialists, and then on into the training world from there. And now here I am, SVP of Innovation and Implementation. So I feel like I've run the gamut of on-site positions and a lot of corporate positions to understand perspective, because I think that that's a big deal in our businesses. Perspective. Maybe the inside team doesn't feel like the outside team understands that. The maintenance outside team doesn't feel like the inside team, office team understands, or the site teams don't feel like the corporate teams understand. And so perspective becomes hyper important when it comes to holding positions of all kinds, but especially this one, because I got to understand what the pain points are to be able to understand where to start the innovation process. And so I do feel uniquely suited to take on this role, and I've been having a lot of fun so far doing it.
Yeah, I think it would be fun, gives you an excuse to go on site and kind of observe like what's happening. Hopefully they don't make everything perfect for you so that you don't see it, but because you got to see the real thing.
You're
You got to
right. You're
see
right. I
you
was
gotta
just
see
on
the
site this
problem.
morning. I was rushing back and getting here for this, but I was just on site this morning because we're testing out a new solution for move out inspections. And so, yeah, I mean, when you're in a vacuum and you tell them exactly what you're coming for, they know it's not that kind of pretentious visit. Not that it ever is with me, but no, I mean, the units needed work, and I was able to inspect what I needed to and really understand what the solution I was evaluating had to offer. So it is fun going to figure out, try to solve problems uniquely with technology or via process.
Right, right.
Mhm.
No, that's cool. Well, a big part of your guys' company, regardless of, the process and all that, is hospitality and the customer experience. And I learned this in talking to Teddy, which I know you know Teddy.
Yes.
Um, learned that a few years ago when I was first introduced to the
Yeah.
company, and it seems like it's from day one been a big focus, which is something that set you guys apart a little bit from a lot of other companies, especially in student housing.
Yeah.
What is it about that you guys have seen as important and you've found a success in that?
Yeah. So early on, one of the things that I love about Elliot, one of our co-owners, is that he sees kind of what's coming next. And so he got inspired just by visiting a hotel. And he says there's not that much difference in hotel hospitality management and what we do. And so early on, he tasked me specifically with figuring out what that meant for student housing. And so we partnered with Forbes Travel Guide, who are the kind of, they call themselves the ones who verify luxury in the hotel, restaurant, and spa world. And he tasked me with, really learning everything I could from them. So in 2018, Forbes came around to every single property that we had at the time and trained them, formally trained our on-site teams and our corporate team separately on what it was that was the Forbes difference. And if you know anything about Forbes, they have over 500 standards of service, and you have to, stand up within a certain time of a guest approaching, or use their name with a certain period of time, or get their luggage from downstairs, from the bell desk up to their room in a certain period of time. 500 standards of service. And so we quickly realized he was right. There's not much difference into, an every night turnover versus a long-term or 12-month turnover. And so we adapted what we call CLS hospitality. And so it comes like with a little book here, or a little kind of pamphlet when you first get hired. It's in your welcome box. And it's 55 standards, not 500, it's 55. It used to be 50, but we reevaluated our 5-year anniversary to include curb appeal. We felt like curb appeal was a big factor. And so just like Forbes does, we award 4 and 5-star designations to those who achieve a certain threshold. And it really speaks to how they operate their overall property. Everything from making sure there's no leads that need to be contacted at the end of a business day, to requiring that their Google score be over 4, to ensuring that our maintenance teams are knocking appropriately with the appropriate verbiage before they're coming into an apartment, to looking the part, to curb appeal being as it should, to signage being as it should, not missing a letter. The things that your customer digests is intended to be what we evaluate, because the customer is very emotionally intelligent, and they also see things. They see things probably in many cases more than we see things, because we see it every day, or we become eye blind. And so we realize that the customer, especially the modern customer, they're buying experiences, no longer are they buying products. And so Elliot saw that a long time ago, had that foresight a long time ago. Wait a minute, the landscape is shifting. We're not, we're no longer buying a cell phone. We're buying a cell phone with Verizon or with AT&T. And so the experience matters. People literally leave cell phone companies because of their experience,
Yeah.
and even in, interacting with so many different technology firms, I'm realizing that even myself, customer experience plays a huge role. And when it's difficult and there's a large path of resistance, customers go the other way. And so our goal is to elevate, because the modern customer needs an experience. And so that's what we've done. We understand that they need authenticity, they need expeditious responses to problems, and they need tech-infused accuracy. They need to be able to go on an app or go somewhere with the quickness and get the answer to their question, or call, and maybe that's an artificial intelligence agent that's answering, but that can quickly solve their problem, not create more problems. And that is why we've kind of been slow going on some pieces of artificial intelligence. We were on the cutting edge of much of it, but things like voice, artificial intelligence voices, we are ready to pull the trigger, because we know the benefit that it can give to us. But we're gun shy a little bit, because if you think yourself, I travel all the time. When my plane is delayed, all I want to do is yell to the phone, "Representative," when it comes to talking to Delta. And so we don't want to take the customer off. We want to enhance their experience. And so that's hopefully that answers your question on the angle and the reason why we've invested so much into hospitality.
Yeah. And what are some of the keys to hospitality that, from an experience standpoint, that a student will see or experience at your communities pretty universally, that really are the keys that are different
Mm-hmm.
from your competition, really?
Well, we invested in the program. I mean, we did not come at a $0 cost for us to really invest, learn, create, and train this program. We quite literally send resources out to go evaluate our communities. And so what we notice is that it's a consistency thing. It might be somebody who really loves hospitality. They're majoring in it, and so they take to it very quickly. But it might be somebody else who just doesn't. They don't see the value in it quite yet, and they just need the repetitive nature of what our curriculum provides. And so it's not just a nice, cute book that's in their welcome email or welcome packet. It is every single week we focus on a different realm or a different standard of hospitality. They go over it in their staff meetings, our site teams do, and they are held to those standards. They have little activities that further that standard. And so there's a little saying that says, achieving in this realm of the world requires constant, gentle pressure. Constant, gentle pressure. You have to make sure that people know that we are looking and that this is important to us. And so, you might meet with 4 different employees that's got it down to a science, but you got that one person who you come across who just had a bad day, and you feel it. Well, they've now crashed the experience for everybody else who worked so hard to achieve it. And so consistency is something, and we have to invest in the program to achieve consistency. But that can be a pain point that everybody has to be on board for that to be a success.
Nice. Do you guys have a signature thing? Like I think I brought this up when we had first talked. There was a book I read about the Ritz-Carlton, and how they have their similar. They're all about hospitality. A lot of similarities, and
Absolutely.
obviously in hotel space and all that. But they have like a gesture every time they pass somebody. I want to say they bow or something. They do something like
Mhm.
to acknowledge the person.
Mhm.
Do you guys have anything like that's a
Well,
universal thing that would become noticeable?
yeah, I mean, noticeable is, and what you're describing is what Forbes calls the 5 S's: stop, stand, speak, and smile. Well, there's a 4: stop, stand, speak, and smile. Maybe it's the 4 S's.
Okay,
But
okay,
anyway, so that's what they're exercising. I'm probably missing one actually, but that's what they're exercising. Whereas the customer comes through and you stop what you're doing, you stay in your posture, you speak, and you smile. It is 4 S's. And so
yeah,
that's what they're doing. They just probably add another gesture. And
yeah,
so we utilize the 4 S's just the same. We also, our curse words, our CLS curse words are "hey," "you guys," and "no problem." All of them are very informal bits of language. Even Apple has their own. Apple's is unfortunately. Nobody at Apple can say unfortunately. They have to say, as it turns out, your phone has water damage. So they have to break it to the folks, lightly. And so we do some of those similar things, but nothing that's just going to be off the cuff, a gesture or a word that you're going to say, oh, that's CLS, like not a my pleasure or anything like that, but definitely observing standards that yield the same result, and that we're consistent in those 4 S's. We're consistent in eliminating those CLS curse words, and we're just doing our very best to take it to the next level is our goal.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I think those attention to detail, like the consistency that it's similar to like going to Chick-fil-A and they say my pleasure, right? Like
Exactly.
those type of things where it's like, they do that.
Exactly. It's very, when you stop to notice it, you start to realize the consistency. And if you were around a CLS employee or a team long enough, you would start to pick up on those same things, not via a word or a trigger word, but just there's very consistent in how they greet you. Your maintenance teams are always going to knock 3 times and say, "Good morning, CLS maintenance." So maybe we do have signature words or phrases when I put it like that, but yes, everybody knocks the same, everybody greets the same, everybody stays away from the same words. And so we definitely have a CLS secret sauce, if you will, 55 of them to be exact.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. I think it's important. Do you have any, I think this is always a missed opportunity in a lot of ways, phone etiquette and just the phone in general.
Yes. We train on the phone like nobody's business. We actually go around annually and do a launch training, a seasonal launch training to each of our properties. And it consists of, how to take a successful tour, how to take a successful phone call. We also do mystery shops that test the theory and do quality control as well. And so, we spend a lot of time talking about how the end customer can recognize if you're listening with 1 ear or 2 ears, if you stopped what you're doing or you did it, if you're multitasking. And so we have like little fun videos that show what to do and what not to do. And so it's just those same pitfalls of transferring somebody too early or not speaking to the next person about what you transferred them about, or not using their names, or just half listening to their problem. It's the same pitfalls. And so you bet your bottom dollar that we definitely train on telephone etiquette the CLS way, which infuses CLS hospitality for sure.
Yeah. That whenever I make a phone call to a property, I kind of pay attention, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm curious how they answer, and being a supplier, so often they're trying to figure out a way to shut me down. But it's like, I don't know, or just no one answers the phone.
Yeah, no, I think I can, with a lot of confidence, say you wouldn't find that at a CLS property. You might find a rogue new person or two that just said, "Hi, can I help you?" But the general greeting is, "Thanks for calling, said property. This is Erin. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking to today?" That is the way that we train our folks, because it gets your single biggest golden nugget, as we call it, off the top, and that's somebody's name. That is our way to personalize the interaction, because Forbes tells us that it requires that the interaction requires graciousness and a sense of personalized service. Okay, and so that's they have these taglines, and so that is one of their taglines: graciousness and a sense of personalized service. So we achieve that via that greeting.
Yeah, and if you then remember their name once they've moved in, and when you see them.
Yes, that's people's. That's what people want to hear. There's no greater sound in somebody's ears than their own name, their kid's name, or their pet's name. And so we use that those are your golden nuggets that we need you to go after initially. And then maybe then you start to find some commonalities. Where are they from? Oh, me too. Or my grandma is too. The whole goal is to, take the sales fence down and have a personal conversation, because you're more likely to close the sale when you feel like you're talking to a human than if you feel like you're talking to a robot or just somebody who's going down a checkbox to get checkbox answers. So exactly, saying somebody's name hopefully will help them commit it to memory X amount, with more, intensity. So that is half of the goal of getting that name first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it means a lot to people for
it
sure.
does. It does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just a checkbox, not just a sale, but actually trying to get to know them.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for answering about that stuff. And it's interesting to hear about how you guys have like packaged it up, even have like something you give everybody that's new and make sure they're well trained because that is the key. Training is so important. You don't actually like walk through what it all looks like and you just give them a book. That really isn't going to do it. I mean,
It's true. It's true, and especially Evan, as we turn this corner into multifamily, that's part of the reason for our rebrand to CLS Living, is because we are turning a corner. We're turning a corner into multiple facets of the industry, not just student housing, but CLS
okay.
residential, CLS on campus, CLS international at some point. And so we are going back to the basics and going, really, really starting foundationally so that we can build, our multifamily and our the other sections of our business with intention. Because if we've learned nothing else from our student housing, time, it is that being intentional about everything you do, from policies and procedures to the way that you train to the solutions that you choose to utilize. You have to have a solid foundation, and so that's kind of the origin of why CLS Living now, because we're turning a corner. We're turning a big time corner and getting ready to expand in a major way. So I look forward to you seeing some of these things in new places.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's
Mhm.
good to hear. And so we're going to see you. And I'm hoping more and more of this will happen in general. But I feel like, unfortunately, the student housing world feels like they got to be over here by themselves.
Yep, we need our
But
own.
yeah, but it's like, nah, come join us over in the big pond and let's learn from each other because I think
It's
you
true.
guys do get exposed to some of the tech a little earlier, maybe, and maybe adopt faster because you're younger people, that you're working with.
It's true. It's true. And so taking that secret sauce to other realms of our business. I mean, we're already doing it, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm saying that we're rebranding, I'm saying that we're expanding, but we already have multifamily, business. We already are on campus in many ways. With many properties, and so we're just tapping into more of what we've realized. We take that same secret sauce and we can apply it to multiple different places and find that same success. It is foundational, operational knowledge with a little bit of sprinkle, or a lot of sprinkle of hospitality, and just doing it right, fundamentally right. And so I'm just excited to see our expansion to what we already know how to do.
Yeah, and which is why the standardization in your policies really need to be combed over uh, as you grow, right? So what is it that you guys are in the midst of, and what are you learning through that process?
Yeah, so our tech stack. We start with our tech stack, since innovation is my middle name at this point. We want our tech stack to be somewhat uniform. We're realizing that we don't want to have one property that plugs into this, and this, another property that plugs into this, and this. And so, we have found a very, very solid AI partner who is big in the industry. I won't name drop, but a lot of folks, especially the student housing world, are starting to partner with them. And we got in early with them, and we've established a foundational relationship. And so it's really cool to watch us start to really make that standard. We pilot everything before we make it, a CLS, across the board. And so we are standardizing our tech stack. But even before then, we are standardizing, like I said earlier, our policies and procedures. We are starting with the foundation because 10 years later, we need to make sure we're on the same page. And so what are our move out procedures? They're different than they were 10 years ago. What is our mobile policy? It's different than it was 10 years ago. What is our social media policy? And some things we get looser with. People used to have tattoo policies all over the place 10 years ago. Gone are those days. We want authentic, employees. And so you got to relax on some of those things while still making sure our uniform policy is in place and that we're not rogue there. And so standardizing uniform policies, standardizing actual processes, making sure that this property isn't performing move out the old archaic way with the term boards on their wall, and this one's using a whole tech forward solution. And so standardization is the key as we turn this corner, because we can't go into tomorrow without understanding where we are to on the same page. And so that's a big part. It'll probably be, if I had to guess, the first year of my job in this new role is making sure that we A, have foundational policies and procedures, but B, that we also understand that every property generally operates within the same parameters. I mean, obviously you have market nuance, but people love to say we're different here, we're different here. And the reality is they're not much different. And so standardization has to happen before we can talk about my third passion of efficiency. We can't be efficient if we don't have a single source of truth. We can't have multiple sources of truth and then still call ourselves efficient. And so it's just one thing leads to the next. We are who we are, a hospitality forward company. And I'm a hospitality forward individual. And then you take it back you peel the onion back a little bit further, start to standardize, and then start to realize true efficiency as you have some foundational policies and procedures to build off of.
Absolutely. So when it comes to once you've standardized, and what are some of those key things that maybe you've unpacked or found in the process that you didn't realize were kind of an ongoing stumbling block for the company?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, on top of doing our policies and procedures and going back to basics on that, we started focus groups. So we did a leasing manager focus group. We did an account manager focus group. We just wrapped our general manager focus group. The whole purpose of that is to gain data, to understand, again, we talked about perspective at the top. We have to understand what people are doing to make sure that to know where we're going. We don't want to change something that might be working, or we don't want to, want to mess with something, or we do want to change stuff that's not working. And so we're doing focus groups. And one of the biggest things that we have found, we started to ask in future focus groups, was what solutions do we offer that you pile on top of with your own solution? So for example, we offer a bulk unit assignment, but somebody else is going to have their Excel spreadsheet that's their unit placement master. Or we might have a renewal tracker and somebody else has a renewal tracker plus. And we're just like, well, we cannot turn the page into efficiency if our current solutions don't work to what you want them to work as now. So we're not asking them to abandon their additional solutions. We're asking to understand the components of those additional solutions so that we can bake them into the next level solution. And so extra processes has been, I won't say a hurdle, but it has been a switch that's turned on, to that being one of my first questions of, okay, we have our out of the box solutions, general manager, maintenance supervisor. What do you use in addition to that? And I mean, every single person has at least 5 to 6 to 7 different spreadsheets or different solutions. I was just on site today and they had a move out tracker. And normally we just go into the system and hit, on notice and move out. We could pull a report, but they specifically want these columns that say return keys, yes or no, every day. They check that box. And so what that's helping them do is go turn units quicker and faster. But maybe there's a solution to it. When you receive a key, you go and you move them out immediately. That's helping my innovation wheels turn on. Maybe the process is broken. Maybe they just want their single source of who's turning their keys in one place, in which case the move out, idea wouldn't necessarily work. And so it's got my wheels turning, and that's just the extra processes that we create. I did not, to answer your question simply and succinctly, realize how many extra solutions people come up with, which might mean that I have more of a job to do than I believed in the beginning.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that, because I find myself doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Because our brains all work a little different. So like, just because somebody creates something, it doesn't necessarily work for my brain.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's good, but I need these extra checkboxes to make sure the keys are turned in, this, that, and the other, to make sure then we can make the turn and make it efficient.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Some people are like high level thinkers and they like looking at that whole, I don't know, all that information. And some people that's overwhelming, right? All those checkboxes would be too much.
Exactly. So providing a solution that allows you to customize it based off of how you would like to see it is key. And there's so many tech solutions. That's a part of the reason why we have to move to tech, because you can manipulate the data the way that you want to see it with tech versus your property management system. It's going to spit you out a report. You might be able to change the columns around, the order in which, but it might not necessarily be able to customize down to the way that you want to. But artificial intelligence, maybe through the plugin of AWS, or by plugging in a solution that does inspections better than maybe the off-the-shelf component does. Now we're starting to customize the way that people want to see them, and hopefully eliminate those additional tasks that we create for ourselves, or additional processes that we create for ourselves. But that's probably one of the biggest eye-opening things that initially I've seen, is that people are going, if there's too much red tape around your solution, they will create your own. And that's the biggest way to kill standardization, and additionally to kill efficiency in the end.
Right. So have something that covers a lot of bases, but you don't necessarily have to use all of it.
Exactly right. Use it how you want to use it. People want autonomy, and that is just a fact. So it's a tough job, but there's some way to accomplish it. There's some way to get the job.
Yeah, because standardization out the gate could feel a little bit constraining.
Yes, it can, and that's what people think of when they think standardization. But when you add the efficiency component in, it's like, hold on, hear me out. I'm going to give you something for everybody, or at least that's the goal. And so we don't do anything unilaterally. We do everything in to make sure that everybody, we have buy-in. We've done our focus groups. We know what the pain points are. We will do pilot testing to any solution that we find. Or, as a matter of fact, we're piloting 3 solutions at once to figure out what our inspection solution will be. 3 solutions at once to figure out what our ongoing inspections. So maybe it's not move-out inspections, it's quarterly inspections. What does that look like? And a lot of these solutions have their own end-to-end maintenance management that looks a little bit cleaner and better, and offers more uniqueness to what we were just talking to, how you want to see it. And so that's the reason why we started kind of there, that along with kind of marketing solutions, because marketing solutions are ever changing. We have to stay on top of those. And so we can't not have our eye on that. But maintenance, interestingly enough, is an area where people do it their own way because they want to see it their own way. And so we really are uniquely looking at solutions in that realm.
Yeah, well, it kind of dovetailing off that, we did have a couple questions that fit right into what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So Steve early on had a question actually about just the pilot process. You're really focused on maintenance stuff right now. And he just was curious, when it comes to pilots, how do you get buy-in from like a maintenance team to pilot or try that new technology?
Yeah, and especially when they've been tech averse, Steve. I love that you put it that way, because that is true. But I'll tell you how to get buy-in. When there's a solution that just doesn't work, all of a sudden people are looking for solutions that do work. Okay, and so there have been many times where our SVP of facilities, Santiago, is like, I'm just trying to get a report done. I'm just trying to spit it out the way. And it's like, well, Santiago, you need about 3 different reports to give you the information that you want in one. So we'll pull these 3 and then we'll put them together the way that you want it. And then he's like, there's gotta be a better solution. And then there you go. Similarly, on the Entrada side, and I'm not bad. Entrada is king. We know that, especially on the student side. But inspections weren't initially their bread and butter, right? They just weren't. So they had very customized, very, very non-customizable inspections. And so again, when it's broke, you seek solutions to fix, versus when it's not broke, you don't fix it. And so that's what we're focusing on, pain points, because it is and has been a pain point, especially with us going paperless on the maintenance side. Our maintenance folks are just like, wait a minute, I have to go to a website on a it's not an app. And then all of a sudden Entrada came out with the app and it works just fine, but still it's a little bit limited. That's just not their bread and butter. And so to answer your question very simply, when people are looking for something that they want to see that they can't achieve in the current solution, they're a lot more open-minded to hear you out. And especially in the world of maintenance, where there's not been many solutions, at least initially. Now we're starting to see the Happy Codes of the world, the Leo 24/7s of the world, even Entrada change over the way they do their inspection pieces. And so it's up to us to do our diligence. But what additionally we found is that you get buy-in by doing pilots when they go successfully. So now all of a sudden we have 5 to 6 properties that loved it, and you use them to be testimonial, to be those people to carry the torch of the testimony to the other folks. And that's how we've gotten a little bit of buy-in for some of the solutions, is that, oh, I've used this in the past. I really want to see us use this. I'll be the one to help us set this up or do this. And so then I will quite literally say, regional director. Oh, I loved this, blah, blah. When I'm sourcing out new people to be a part of the pilot, I will use their testimonials to try to break those barriers down. And I will go to them personally and say, what are your thoughts about using this? Do you feel like in turn time that's going to be a little bit too daunting? Oh, no. I actually feel like that might help us more. And so you want to get the buy-in by going to them personally. People like that versus here's a solution. We're going to use it. It starts on June 1st. People do not like forced solutions, if you will. And so getting the buy-in requires a little bit of massaging, but successful pilots as well.
Yeah, and it lets them have feedback and feel like they were a part of the process and not just like, oh, here's what you're using.
Exactly.
And then they're like, that's what you think.
Watch me skirt around it. Oh yeah, we see that too. Where there's a solution that they just are not taking to, and so they will do everything to just check enough of the box to say they did it. And so that's part of what our focus groups are about, and that's what helps us prioritize what pain points we're gonna attack first.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we all know, well, at least I've come to know, in student housing especially, turns are a big deal. It's a whole season. It's like a Super Bowl, but more than one day.
A lot of days.
So there actually is a question about that. What's the most difficult challenge you face during the busy move-in months, August, September, for you guys?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, the challenge is keeping your eye, from a corporate perspective, keeping your eye in multiple places at once, and to be able to identify early on where the challenges are. It's almost like a water leak turn is, right? The longer you let that water flow, the worse off the damage is going to be. Okay, it's just like that with turn. And so part of our job is kind of corporate support, because every single year I find myself doing 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 turns because of the ones that kind of blow up in flames. And so from a corporate perspective, keeping our eyes peeled for where the problems might be early is the best thing that we can possibly do to make sure we can still preserve and have a successful move-in. From the site team side, I might suggest that, people is always going to be an issue. We always have to do quality control. We always have to, it's this logistical puzzle. And so there's this fine line balance of skilled labor who understands our business versus hands on deck that can just help us, move furniture, do this or do that. And what we find is that the more prepared we are logistically, this unit's furnished, this unit's not. This person, wanted to be on with this person. Then you have the less, the more administrative issues that you have leading into turn yield the more physical issues that come on the outside of turn. And so being organized and providing the tools, our on-site teams, the tools, we have very sophisticated, and this one we don't use technology, ironically, but we do have very sophisticated turn boards that are through Excel, but that are automated through, if it's on your turn board, it'll also go to your turn summary, which is, it lives, your budget lives in there as well. So you can easily see, if I do this carpet, it's going to put me over. If I don't do this carpet, it's not. And so having the right tools in place, the right visibility to back into all those admin tasks that lead up to turn is probably where we find our biggest areas where we miss turn sometimes. But from a corporate perspective, just keeping our eyes out for that, knowing what the telltale signs are. Oh boy, this is not going very well. We haven't even trashed out all of our units and it's the third day of turn, alert. That is a problem, so just keeping track of the right KPIs is what I suggest is the right thing to do from a corporate perspective.
Okay. So sounds like you have quite the spreadsheet you use that feeds other spreadsheets. Is there a visual cue that all can go into a map or something where it's
It does. It'll turn red if a certain component was missed. It X's out just by saying that all trades have been completed. And then again, simultaneously, it already feeds into, it takes this much to paint one bedroom. You spent this much. You spent that much. You spent that much. And so from a budgeting perspective, it has hugely helped visually us, rein it back and not go too far off budget. And then the RDs or RVPs, whoever has oversight, can look at that, and it's updated in real time. Every single day, that property manager is updating that visual, shareable in the cloud turn board, which then goes to what we call our TTA, a target turn assessment, which houses our budget numbers and such. So it all just speaks together. But having the right tools is key, because going back to standardization, you're killing your efficiency if you have everybody else doing it their own way. And so we try to have the tools, and that's part of my job as well, is out there sourcing new tools to be able to have even better visibility and even better tools that speak to themselves that maybe don't live in Excel, because we know that that is archaic quickly.
Sure. Yeah. So you guys must have built that, I'm assuming.
Yes, we did. We did build it.
So there's still kind of a gap. There's not that particular thing for sale out there.
Oh yeah, I mean there is. But back to Steve's question, getting buy-in on things that are not as broken are a little bit further down, but it's not too far down. But remember, I'm a month in the job, so if we have the same review in a year, I'll have some solutions identified. I guarantee you that. I actually already do, but we just have to go through the diligence process.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you have a good spreadsheet for now.
For now, it works, but we know that we have to turn the corner and go into tomorrow. So that'll be short-lived. But that's the reason for the position, is that we know we have solutions that are archaic, and we know that we can bring in, technology, specifically artificial intelligence, to help us create and bridge some of these operational gaps. We know it.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Well, again, I mean, this is a job that I think is interesting. I love diving into stuff, figuring out what the problems are, how do you fix it. My brain works that way. So that's sounds like fun.
It is professional problem solving every day, one day at a time. But aren't we all doing that though, Evan? Aren't we all?
Yeah. I mean, I think for some people it's like, that sounds like chaos.
Fair. No,
that's overwhelming.
Yeah, no, it gives me a sense of accomplishment when we've solved the problem. It's a cloud, as I call it, until we've solved the problem. But the cloud, it will go away at some point for sure.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being on with me today. Funny enough, we've blasted through this. I don't know if you realize, but we've been doing this. I
realize until I started getting all the alerts for my next call coming up. I was like, oh wow, it's time. But what a fun time. Thank you so much, Evan, not only for allowing me on today, but for creating the space to have a bunch of different industry experts or industry bosses on, as you call it. But what a great thing. Keep it up. Please invite me back soon so that I can update you on all the solutions that we have implemented. But until then, thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like Erin said it, this is a platform for the bosses of the industry, whether you're in student, conventional, senior, whatever it is. And it doesn't matter what role you're in. Like, I love hearing from all the bosses of the industry here, because we have so much to learn from each other. Just like when you're implementing something new, you got to get feedback from people that are actually going to use it, right? So that goes for shows like this. I love learning from everybody. So if you have something to share, story to tell, I would love to have you on Boss Talks, and we'll make it happen. So reach out to me and we'll do it. But today, it's been about Erin. And again, appreciate you. And hopefully, I don't know if you've made the decision yet, because it's like 2 weeks.
I'll be there. I'll be there. I will be there.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll be at Boss Brunch too, because then
yes. Let me go RSVP that right now. Yes.
All right.
Fantastic. Thanks again for the invite. Thanks again for today. We'll see you there.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.